Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you being with me today as I talk about two cases that are extremely unsettling to me. The first one I want to talk about is a family. And this family consists of mom and dad, hard-working people, live in an upper middle class neighborhood in Lake Wales. 4 children, and dad goes to work like he always does. He works, as he says, an incredible amount so that his wife can stay home and take care of the 4 children and the house. So he goes to work. And he receives a frantic call from one of the children that, mom's being taken by ambulance to Lake Wales Hospital in exceptionally critical condition. This all happens just after about 9:30 yesterday morning. So dad goes to the hospital, rushes to the hospital, and determines from the hospital that mom's died of unknown causes. He goes and gets the daughter out of school. She's 14. And he goes home with his family where they're all grieving together. At about 11:04, we get a phone call from the hospital. They said, "We've just discovered this lady that died from unknown causes that was brought in has suspicious injuries." So immediately we go to the hospital and we rush to the house. The hospital thinks at that time possibly she has puncture wounds. And in fact, she does. So we get to the house, and here's this grieving family, and they're shocked by all of a sudden there's patrol cars and homicide detectives that show up. And here's what we discovered. Seth Settle is 19 years of age. Mom takes daughter to school, comes home, and smells smoke in Seth's bedroom. So she goes and she opens the door, and she said, "I've told you before about smoking in this house. Now quit smoking in the house." And she closes the door, and he shoots her through the door. Did you hear what I said? He shoots his mama through the door. There's an entrance wound and an exit wound, and she falls to the floor. He jumps up, runs to where his 24-year-old brother is. It's a large house, around the corner from the game room, from his bedroom through the game room, around to the main area of the house, and is screaming at his 24-year-old brother, who's in the bathroom and doesn't hear what he says. 24-year-old comes out. Seth has fled the house. He goes looking for his mother and finds her unresponsive in the game room on the floor by Seth's bedroom, and of course dials 911. There is no blood. He doesn't know what happened. He didn't hear a gunshot. Seth's fled. They call EMS. EMS cancels us. It's a medical event. Until they get to the hospital, dad now has arrived at the hospital. Mom's deceased. They initially don't see any wound. They don't see any blood. And only later, when they're preparing to move mom, did one of the nurses notice all of a sudden there's a small amount of blood And in fact, what has happened, she was shot. The medical examiner did the investigation this morning, and what he determined, this in and out wound went directly through her heart. Her heart immediately quit beating, so there was no blood to pump out. We arrest Seth, take him down to the station, and he confesses. But he colors the event in his best interest. He tells us that he's depressed, and some of his friends confirmed to us that he had a girlfriend about a year ago. He said that Mom opened the door to get on to me about smoking, and I was holding a gun to my head, and she told me to put the cigar out and close the door, and the gun accidentally discharged. We don't believe that. We don't believe that because by all accounts, even his admission that Mom was a absolutely, totally wonderful person and the best mom you could ever have. We do a criminal history, not one blemish on anyone's name. Mom, Dad, the 4 kids. This is truly the wonderful family next door. And he kills his mom. We think he was angry. We think he was mad. We're absolutely confident with the type of mom that this is. There's no way she would have closed that door with her son holding a gun to his head. That's our supposition. He fled, went to a friend's house, told him I accidentally shot Mom, fled past her, didn't help, didn't dial 911, hollered something at the brother on the way out of the door. So where are the guns? Well, he tells the detectives, well, I threw them off of the Chalet Suzanne Road into a wooded area. So after hours of searching, we finally determined that another friend had come to the house, and he had asked the other friend to take these 2 firearms away. The friend gave us the firearms, said he wanted me to take the firearms because he was afraid he'd hurt himself. Of course, the friend didn't know Mom was shot. He just knew that Mom had died unexpectedly, and he was just trying to hold the firearms for Seth. Dad, the other brothers, no one had any idea that Seth even had these 2 firearms. And he's too young to possess firearms. The firearms aren't stolen. But at the end of the day, we have, without argument, the most wonderful mom in the world, who's now deceased because the 19-year-old kid shot and killed her. I can't begin to tell you the horror of this event. I had the opportunity to talk to Dad, who's just a great, hardworking, good man. And I can tell you the only people that are more shocked and stunned by this than us and law enforcement are the immediate family. No one ever could see this coming. But for whatever reason, he shot and killed his mom. Are there any questions about that before I go to the next one?
Yeah, so you said that it wasn't a stolen gun. The dad didn't know that he had guns, and he's too young to have a gun. So where did the gun come from?
He said he bought them off of the street. Now, they're not reported stolen. That doesn't mean that that someone didn't steal them and sell them to him, and it never got registered in the computer as a stolen firearm. But there is zero indication that the firearm's stolen. He just bought them. Some friends had them.
It was a cigar he was smoking? There was no drugs or anything?
No drugs, Black and Mild cigar.
Did he show any remorse?
No, he was very stoic. It wasn't that he was unapologetic. He was just very stoic. Said he was a great mom. It was an accident. But he admitted pointing the gun at the door.
Can you share the age of the victim?
The victim's 52. My heart and prayers go out to the entire family. That's not supposed to happen, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Okay? Now, there's things that when they come to your attention, you know that it has to be true because you can't make this stuff up. So our detectives come in to brief me and the chiefs and said, we've got information that one of our volunteer sheriff service officers, one of our volunteers, is selling oxycodone. We go, well, that's a shock. Out of the sheriff's patrol car that he's issued to drive while he volunteers. That's another shock. So we begin an undercover investigation, and we find out a volunteer sheriff's service officers are volunteers. They're the ones that with the yellow lights on the car, and they help direct traffic at crashes. They work minor crashes. They look for handicap violations. They help with school crossings. And what we find is David Roberts. He's 69 years old. He's been a volunteer for us for 12 years. A very good volunteer. People say that he's friendly, he's fun to be around, he's hardworking. And here's what we have discovered so far during this investigation. He gets about 90 he gets 90 oxycodone with Tylenol a month for pain. And he's gotten these for over 2 years. Now, I've got all kinds of other questions, like what doctor thinks he needs 90 oxys a month for over 2 years? But when he gets these 90 oxys, his pain's not that great, so he sells them. He sells them for $10 each. Well, we infiltrate him with an undercover detective, and we find out that he's being paid $10 a piece for these. So he's making $900 a month selling his prescription drugs on the street. So now we're in competition with the street drug dealers. So we said, we'll give you $12. And he goes, okay. So he says, I'll set the location for the transaction. So we go, okay. And it's the racetrack, Highway 60 in Lake Wells. So our undercover pulls into the racetrack, dials the suspect up on the phone and said, hey man, I'm looking for you. Where are you? He said, I'm over here in the corner. Our undercover says, you in the Popo car? He goes, yeah. He won't be in it for long, but he's in it now. So we go there. He has taken the oxys out of the prescription bottle, put them in a plastic baggie, and is counting the money before he turns the drugs over to us. Why he's wearing his uniform. Listen, folks, that makes me crazy. That makes me so crazy I want to pluck my eyeballs out one at a time. So we complete the deal. We allow him to drive away. We follow him. And he pulls into the substation. So we arrest him in the parking lot of the substation. And he's affable. and he's cooperative, and he signs a waiver and lets us search his house where we find some marijuana. He says, it's not mine, it's my nephew's. I'm just holding it for him. Well, why is it in your bedroom? I don't know. I'm just holding it for him. And then we find 2 guns, a rifle and a pistol. Well, that's okay until we run a criminal history. Are you ready for this? You're talking about an epic system failure. He's a convicted felon from 52 years ago. That's right. When he was 19, he was arrested for a burglary and convicted. He goes, I can't be a convicted felon. I've been voting all the way back to Nixon. Did you hear what I said? So we have done an administrative look at our volunteer files, and they just missed it. They just flat missed it. Volunteers don't go through the normal HR detailed polygraph system that full-time employees do. They're donating time. But there's to be a complete background run on him. And 12 years ago, of course, the person that did it is long gone. Apparently, either didn't do it completely, had a failure. We're embarrassed. We're embarrassed. Mr. David Roberts, though, should recognize that selling 90 oxycodones is a 15-year minimum mandatory, and we're going to help him get every day of that in prison. He admitted, well, I've embarrassed the agency. That's the understatement of the day. But as is our policy at the sheriff's office, transparency. Somebody messed up 12 years ago on a background. He's been a stellar volunteer, very well loved, done a good job. Oh, except when he's selling oxys out of the car, you see, using it as cover. I am livid. I am hotter than a bare butt on a tin roof in August. And there will be all our volunteer systems audited. Oh, by the way, we don't have that many VSSOs. We've already checked all the other files and re-audited them. They're all pristine except for this one. All of them. Well, it makes sense. This is the one that should have been screened out 12 years ago and wasn't. So, in Polk County vernacular, if there's been any misunderstanding, I'm pissed. He's going to prison, I hope, for 15 years, not counting his weapons charges. Is there any questions?
To clarify, you said that volunteers don't go through the same stringent checks as full-time employees, but there are background checks?
There are background checks. There are complete background checks. Volunteers go through a much greater background check than employees in the private world. And had this background check been done appropriately 12 years ago, he wouldn't be here. It wasn't done appropriately. It slipped through the process. We have over 3,000 volunteers at the sheriff's office. We are grateful for our volunteers and we love them. They do so much good work and value added for the community. And this guy's embarrassed every one of them with his nonsense. But he's going to pay. He's going to pay a significant price upon conviction in the criminal justice system, and he has already. He's sitting in the county jail right now. He doesn't need to worry about ever driving our car again. He doesn't need to worry about eating peanut butter and jelly in the jail. But he does need to know that, hey, at 69 years of age, man, by the time trial's over with, you'll probably be out of prison by the time you're 84.
Did he say how long he was doing that in the cruiser? Or in the
First
car?
time.
Oh.
First time. Although we have evidence to the contrary, he's been selling his oxys every month. But I've got lots of questions outside of this. What physician gives you 90 oxys a month for years? Because you have pain. I mean, this guy, I'm not suggesting there isn't demonstrable pain in some people that go on generationally. He ain't one of them. He comes to work. He told someone, I got gout in my big toe. Well, you know, he's giving me pain too, but I'm not going to get any oxys for it.
Can we go back to the first case real quick?
If we're finished with this one,
Sorry.
we can.
Are you finished?
Yes, sir?
Okay, sorry. So why do we think he did this? Did he just snap? Because it was his statement he had the gun to his head.
His statement was it was an accident.
Okay.
His statement was, I'm depressed, I was depressed, I had a gun to my head. Oh yeah, I pointed it at the door. You see, if you look in his bedroom, I went to the scene, the bed doesn't point toward the door. So there was an intentional act to point the gun toward the door. I think he was mad, but that's supposition. I don't believe it was an accident. He said the gun accidentally went off. I think Mom opened the door and said, I've told you before, now put that out, quit smoking in the house. And she closed the door just in time to get shot through the door.
And then, I guess the other question is, how does no one realize that she was shot? Without blood, I just didn't get that.
There was zero blood, and he fled. Brother was in the other end of the house. It's a nice sized house, in the bathroom, heard no noise. He comes in to discover Seth has run out and Mom's unresponsive. EMS arrives. They don't see any blood. They transport her to Lake Wells ostensibly to try to save her life. Lake Wells works on her and goes, she's deceased. Lake Wells, the hospital initially didn't suspect foul play. There was no blood. But the shot, as the medical examiner explained it to my detectives, as it went through the heart, immediately the heart stopped pumping. And it was...
There was a gunshot through the door, right?
exactly.
Like a small one, or what did it?
It was small, and in the excitement, nobody paid any attention to that. And keep in mind, the family is all back home mourning and in total shock over Mom passing. And all of a sudden they look up and here's cops coming all over the house. They're going, what's going on here? Dad's already been to the hospital. And they said, your wife's passed, we don't know why. And then later discovered it. The whole case is bizarre. But it rips your heart out, because this was truly a wonderful mother and a wonderful family. It's as sad as it gets. Okay? Y'all be safe. Have a good weekend. And we'll talk to you at the next terrible event.